Part 22. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 211. Really? Yukino Kame doesn't care whether Lin Ziyan is strong or not, but when she hears Odarina praising Lin Ziyan, she always feels like there is a nameless anger in her heart, but she can't get angry with Rina. This feeling is really uncomfortable. Xiaomei, what's wrong with you? Odarina also noticed that Yukino Kame seemed a little abnormal. I'm fine. Yukino Kame smiled reluctantly at Rina. Xiaomei, are you really okay? You can tell me if you have anything, although I can't help much. Rina reached out and held Yukino Kame's hand, but I can ask Ani-chan if there is anything I can do. Originally, Yukino Kame was quite moved when she heard the first half of the sentence, but when Rina said the second half of the sentence, Yukino Kame seemed to change her face and suddenly pulled her hand out of Rina's hand. Odarina was stunned on the spot. She didn't know what she had done wrong to make Yukino Kame like this. Seeing Odarina's bewildered look, Yukino Kame's heart softened. She went over to hold Reina's hand again and explained, "It's okay. I was just thinking about something. I guess I scared Reina." Odarina smiled reluctantly. She always felt that Yukino Kame seemed a little different from usual today. Is Reina living in Shigeki Aoda's house now? Is she living well? Yukino Kame also realized that she seemed to have overreacted and was about to find a topic to divert Odarina's attention. It's good, but recently, Ani-chan rarely plays with me, Odarina said a little helplessly. She knew that Lin Ziyan was very busy every day, especially recently. Originally, she went to wake Lin Ziyan up, but now when she got up and went over, Lin Ziyan was gone. He went to work early and ate only when he came back in the evening. She felt distressed. Reina should be careful of some people, they just like to deceive some little girls. Yukino Jiame felt that Reina always said good things when talking about Lin Ziyan, so she had to remind her of the true face of some people. No, Ani-chan is just a idiot. Odarina's tone was originally very cheerful, but as she spoke, she became helpless, and finally gritted her teeth, looking like she was disappointed with her son. Yukino Jiame was stunned by Reina's many changes. She knew that she couldn't talk about Lin Ziyan with Reina, which was simply asking for trouble. After thinking for a while, Yukino Jiame made a decision, so she said to Reina, "Reina, can I go to your house as a guest?" Odarina was tangled when she heard this question. When she asked Yukino Jiame to take her home, she got off at the previous intersection first, because she didn't want Yukino Jiame to go in, for fear of being seen by Oda Michiko, and... But now, is it time to meet the parents? To be honest, Yukino Kame is really good to her, and she can't say no, but she is still a little worried. I'll go back and ask Ani-chan first. Odarina looked at Yukino Kame with great apology. Without Lin Ziyan's approval, she was afraid of something going wrong, so she had to ask Lin Ziyan before she dared to take Yukino Kame home. Okay. Yukino Kame knew that she couldn't say anything. Lin Ziyan occupied too much of a position in Reina's heart, and she also needed time to collect Lin Ziyan's black material. Lin Ziyan returned from Sakai Otoha's house as usual. After so much training, there was finally a little result. Sakai Otoha's weight dropped. According to the data analysis of the past few days, this drop is stable, and there will be no rebound as long as you don't do anything stupid. You should know that many rapid weight loss methods have various disadvantages. Some will cause a great burden on the body, and some will rebound if you are not careful, and the rebound is more than the loss. So it is important to have a regular plan. If Sakai Otoha hadn't suggested going to a barbecue to celebrate, he would have been happier. Then he would have asked Sakai Otoha to train more and use sweat to flush out those unrealistic ideas from his mind. As soon as he got home, Lin Ziyan lay down on the sofa, and Michiko Oda just smiled when she saw him coming back. "Aoda-kun is back," Michiko said, and got up and walked to the kitchen. "Well, I don't have to cook so much today. I don't have much appetite, Lin Ziyan replied casually. Got it, I'll go prepare the meal. After Sakai Otoha made that suggestion, Lin Ziyan ordered a pizza in front of her and ate it while watching her train. At that time, Sakai Otoha's efficiency increased by more than double. Sure enough, people's potential is infinite. If you don't push yourself, you don't know how powerful you are. So he is not very hungry now, just eat something casually. Not long after Michiko Oda left, Rina Oda on the side came to Lin Ziyan sneakily, looking like she wanted to say something but stopped. This is very strange. In the past, Reina would rush over directly. What happened today? Lin Ziyan looked at the slightly nervous Oda Reina and asked curiously, is Reina okay? After Lin Ziyan spoke, Oda Reina seemed much more relaxed. She glanced in the direction of the kitchen and came to Lin Ziyan. Xiaomei said she wanted to come to my house to play. Lin Ziyan lost interest when he heard it. He knew that Xiaomei was Reina's friend. He was not interested in the affairs of the two little girls, so he answered casually, if she wants to come, let her come. What's the big deal? But Unni-chan is not here. Reina got anxious and pulled Lin Ziyan's clothes. Your mother is still here when I'm not here, right? She will take care of the guests. Lin Ziyan smiled. Besides, your friend is here to play with you, not with me, so it doesn't matter whether I'm here or not. Can you not stay with me that day, Unni-chan? Oda Reina didn't act like a spoiled child to Lin Ziyan as she did in the past, but almost begged her. Lin Ziyan frowned slightly, and after thinking for a while, he understood what Reina was thinking. He quickly got up and sat up, saying to Reina, okay, I promise you, I will be at home on the day your friend comes. Hearing Lin Ziyan's words, Oda Reina smiled immediately, rushed over to hug Lin Ziyan and said, Unni-chan is the best. Reina likes Unni-chan the most. Lin Ziyan just smiled and gently stroked Reina's hair. He knew why Oda Reina wanted him to stay at home with her, because the trigger last time was that Sayurioko went to her house and found that she was from a single-parent family. Reina was probably afraid that her new friend would become like Sayurioko or stay away from her after knowing this, so she wanted to keep him at home to save face. But it was okay, he also wanted to see who Reina's friend was. Aoda-kun can come over for dinner. Oda Michiko came out of the kitchen and saw the two people hugging each other, and Reina was laughing so loudly, and asked, what are you talking about so happily? My retirement life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 212. Oda Reina was stunned for a moment, then she remembered that she hadn't told Michiko about this yet, and quickly turned her eyes to Lin Ziyan for help. Lin Ziyan knew what she was thinking when she saw her bare face, and said to Oda Michiko, Reina's new friend is coming to visit our home, it's normal to be happy. Oh, when will he come? Do you need to prepare anything? Oda Michiko didn't look surprised at all, but seemed to know. Mom, you. Oda Michiko's abnormal behavior was very obvious in Oda Reina's eyes. Originally, she thought that even if Michiko didn't object, she would question her why she didn't tell her about her friend. But now it seems that her mother already knew. Oda Reina looked at Lin Ziyan. Lin Ziyan didn't say anything when she saw her looking at him, but just smiled awkwardly, a little embarrassed. Don't look at it. I know even if Qingtian didn't tell me. Oda Michiko came over and took Reina off Lin Ziyan. I've seen your little cleverness a long time ago, and if it weren't for Qingtian's guarantee, would you have come home so late? Mom, I didn't want to lie to you. Oda Reina lowered her head and said tangledly. Okay, I know you don't want me to worry, but sometimes you have to tell me first. Mom is not as fragile as you think. Michiko gently hugged Reina in her arms. This daughter is really worrying. I know. Oda Reina secretly looked up at Michiko. Lin Ziyan, who had slipped into the kitchen a long time ago, didn't know anything in the kitchen. He was struggling to solve dinner. In the early morning, everything was quiet. It was obviously close to summer, but there was no insect chirping nearby. Lin Zion, who was sleeping well in bed, suddenly opened his eyes, then turned over and got out of bed, rushed out of the room, and went into the basement. He didn't even stop during the period. The speed of his movements made it impossible for people to react. As soon as he entered, Lin Zion saw Xiaobai floating in the air, with black flames swirling on its body. The place where it originally slept had been burned black, and Xiaobai could float in the air because Qingxun was trying her best to control Xiaobai. Because Xiaobai seemed to be unable to control his own power, his face was hideous, he screamed in the air, and swung his limbs wildly. Looking at Qingxun's body twisted by the burning black flames, Lin Zion quickly reached out and shouted, "Let Xiaobai go, let me do it." Seeing that Lin Zion dared to reach out and catch Xiaobai without any protective measures, Zhongmu Qingxun was about to remind him, but he saw a dazzling golden light blooming in Lin Zion's hand, which immediately wrapped Xiaobai in it, and almost instantly suppressed the black flames, and then the golden light slowly penetrated into Xiaobai's body, and Xiaobai was also caught in his hand. Looking at Xiaobai, who had settled down and fell asleep again, Lin Zion said to Qingxun beside him, "It's okay, you are not hurt." Ye Qingxun also put away her own power. She was still immersed in the power that Lin Zion had just exploded. She finally believed that Lin Zion had the strength to easily deal with her, because just now she felt nothing except the vastness of the sea. This is the most terrifying. Since she became what she is now, her instinctive sense is very sensitive. She can see the threat of some people she sees on the street, but every time she looks at Lin Zion, she always feels nothing, more ordinary than ordinary people. Even the situation just now can't be seen through, he has obviously used his power. The master is indeed the strongest, and when can he be like this? Lin Zion doesn't know what Qingxun is thinking about. He is also having a headache now. Xiaobai suddenly went berserk for some reason. Fortunately, he had foresight and left Qingxun long ago to avoid problems at the first time, and his reaction was also timely to seal it, otherwise it would be troublesome. Although Xiaobai can't get out even if he defeats Qingxun, the formation left by Lin Zion is still useful. However, if the formation is triggered and suppressed, Xiaobai may be dead by then. But what went wrong? Lin Zion checked it when he first started. Obviously there was no problem. The fusion was very good. Xiaobai's essence had begun to change, but... Lin Zion looked at Xiaobai again. Compared with his original appearance, Xiaobai was thinner now. In just a few days, he looked like a different person. The fat on his belly disappeared. Lin Zion suddenly thought that it would be great if Sakai Otoha also wanted to be like Xiaobai. But now he still had to take care of Xiaobai first. The original towel had been burned, so he had to go back to the room to take down Xiaobai's original nest, and then drip water into its mouth with his hand. Xiaobai was just a cat after all. It was impossible for it to be as lively as Lin Zion without food or water for several days. So Lin Zion would feed it a little water every day, and there was no need for food. His fat body completed its task very well. Lin Zion worked until 4 o'clock before going back to his room to sleep. Lying on the bed, the only feeling he had now was tired. The morning class had just ended, and some people in the class called their friends out of the classroom, while others put 2 or 3 tables together, and then took out the prepared lunch boxes, each talking about today's dishes, and then boasting about it. And Yukino Kame, who was sitting in front of Reina, just turned her stool around to face Oda Reina, and then each took out a lunch box and put it on the table. Xiaomei Oda Reina still remembered what she said yesterday, "When will you come to my house to play?" This. Yukino Jiame got angry when she talked about this. After she went back last night, she just looked around and found many rumors about Lin Zion in school. They were all negative, and there was no positive news. Let's do it this Sunday. Now it's only a few days away from Sunday. She wants to use these few days to find more evidence, and then expose Lin Xian's true face in front of Ling Nei and drive this pervert away from Ling Nei. If Ling Nei didn't trust Lin Xian too much now, she would tell Ling Nei about Lin Xian's black material now without evidence. Although those black materials are just rumors in the school. I tell you, Ani I-chan's cooking is super delicious. When Xiaomei comes to my house, I must ask Ani I-chan to cook, Ling Nei said happily after getting a definite answer. Before, Lin Xian would do it from time to time, but since he took the so-called job, he rarely did it. And Lin Xian promised her that he would stay that day, so he naturally had time to cook a meal. She herself hasn't eaten for a long time. More importantly, Reina remembered that Lin Xian said that true friends should learn to share good things, and in Reina's eyes, the most worth sharing is Lin Xian's cooking. Reina also saw that Yukino Jiamei didn't know why she was hostile to Lin Xian, and hoped that she would change after eating this meal. On one side is Ani I-chan, and on the other side is a friend. She doesn't want to give up on either side. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 213. You're still sitting here. Why don't you go to the swimming pool? As soon as Lin Xian entered the door, he saw Otoi Sakai setting up a beach chair by the swimming pool, with a large sun umbrella standing next to it. Just to isolate her from the sun, she also had a glass of iced lemonade in her hand. Hey, here we go, can't we take a day off since the sun is so bright today? Sakai Otoi turned over and looked at Lin Xian. As soon as Lin Xian came closer, he heard the chair groaning "Gg," as if asking him for help. Don't come here. It's hot outside and you won't go to the gym to exercise. You just want to be lazy. Lin Xian changed the topic, but the sun is really bright today. So you have a day off today? Sakai Otoi looked at Lin Xian happily. No, the weather is so good today, of course we need to train extra. Lin Xian showed a cruel smile. I originally trained for half an hour, but you were lazy, so I trained for an extra hour. Ah! You can't do this. You have a day off from work, Sakai Otoi wailed and got up from the chair, trying his best to fight for Lin Xian's interests. 1.5 hours, let's talk about 2 hours more, Lin Xian said nonchalantly. You're cruel. Sakai Otoi pulled off the towel on his body, revealing a swimsuit, and then jumped into the swimming pool with a depth charge. Lin Xian watched Otoba Sakai swimming skillfully in the swimming pool. After these few days of training, she was able to get rid of the dead pig floating style. Let's not say whether it was the dog paddle or the butterfly stroke. At least she could swim. Lin Xian looked at the things she left behind, wiped the beach chair with a towel on the ground, and then lay down on it. Not to mention, it was really comfortable. All I needed was a glass of ice-cold Coke. Lin Xian looked at the half-cup of ice lemon that Sakai Otoha drank and complained, I didn't know how to prepare a cup for me. No wonder you have to train extra. Even if it was swimming, Lin Xian decided for her that after swimming for half an hour, she would come up and walk slowly to recover her body temperature, and then rest for 10 minutes. Don't underestimate the difference between walking slowly and 10 minutes. Many people get into accidents just because of the difference of 10 minutes. In water, because water has a large specific heat capacity, human body temperature drops very quickly. Even in summer, the heat generated by the body is quickly taken away. When the heat generated by the body is less than the heat consumed, the arteries will constrict, the small veins will expand, and the blood will accumulate in the subcutaneous veins, causing the skin to turn purple and the lips to be dark. Staying in the water for a long time may cause hypothermia, hypoglycemia, cramps, and other problems, so Lin Xian always split her swimming into half-hour sessions and would not let her stay in the water for a long time. However, Lin Xian felt that her worries were unnecessary. The fat on her body had a very good insulation effect. Just try harder next time. Lin Zion thought to himself. I have something to do this Sunday and I guess I won't be able to come. Then you can continue to practice according to the training I set. Lin Zion already knew this time from Reina and promised her to be at home, so he and Sakai Nya said. Really, Sakai Otoi ran over all the way, looking very happy to see her. You still have to train. Your home is only 10 minutes away from mine. If I suddenly come here on a whim. Lin Zion looked at her and sneered, you will know the consequences. What are you doing? I didn't say I was going to be lazy. It's okay to eat randomly. Remember why you asked me to help you. Don't waste my time and energy. Lin Zion ruthlessly defeated her fantasy. Who wouldn't know her little thoughts? Oni-chan came back late again today. As soon as Otarina saw Lin Zion coming back, she swooped into Lin Zion's arms, pouted and looked at Lin Zion, looking very unhappy. I don't want to either, but I have to finish today's workload before it can be finished. Otherwise, I don't know when it will be finished if I drag it on. Lin Zion looked at Michiko Oda for help. She seemed to not care about Reina rubbing against him now, but she would talk about it before. Now Michiko Oda just smiled and turned to the kitchen. In response, he had no choice but to lift Reina out. He was going to take a shower now. Reina knows Otarina followed Lin Zion. She was now wondering if it was a bit selfish to want Lin Zion to spare a day to accompany her. How long will it take to make up for the free day? Will Oni-chan be scolded for not keeping up with the schedule at work? Will he be fired? Is it really necessary for Oni-chan to stay? Otarina compared Yukino Yoshimi and Sagarayoko and found that there was no comparison at all. Yukino Yoshimi was very good to her at school, and she was very happy when playing with her. Otarina was so lost in thought that she didn't even notice that Lin Zion in front of her stopped. Seeing that she was about to hit him, Lin Zion turned around and put his hand on her forehead and said, "Stop, why are you coming to the bathroom with me? The toilet is next to it." Otarina reacted and reached out to grab Lin Zion's hand. She opened her mouth to say something, but was interrupted by Lin Zion. "I'm going to take a shower. If you have anything to do, wait until I come out." After Lin Zion finished speaking, he entered the bathroom. Seeing the bathroom door locked in front of her eyes, Otarina quickly reached out and pushed it, only to find that it was locked. "Really, I didn't even lock the door when I took a shower. Why should Oni-chan lock the door?" Otarina complained in a low voice. Looking around, Reina simply sat down at the door of the bathroom, with her back against the washing machine, looking at the light and shadow on the door. Otarina guessed, is Oni-chan taking off her clothes now? Thinking of this, Otarina suddenly remembered that Lin Zion had taken off his shirt when he proved it to her that day. At that time, "Oni-chan," Otarina tried to call out. What? Lin Zion was really convinced. Couldn't he even wait for a few minutes? "Oni-chan, am I annoying?" After hearing what Lin Zion said, Reina hugged her knees with both hands and buried her head in the small harbor she created. Because she was afraid that Lin Zion would answer yes. Lin Zion didn't expect that the impatience he inadvertently showed would be felt by the sensitive Otarina. No, Reina is so cute, how can she be annoying? Lin Zion felt that he should stabilize her first, at least wait until he finished taking a shower, but I have to finish taking a shower before I can hug you. Really? Reina suddenly raised her head and looked at the other side of the glass door. Of course, Reina, do you have something to talk to me about? Will it affect your work if Oni-chan stays on Sunday? Reina carefully probed. Actually, Oni-chan doesn't have to stay, Mom is at home. Lin Zion knew what she was thinking when he heard her words. It turned out that she was worried about my work problem. It's okay, I've already made an agreement with them. I will stay at home on Sunday, don't worry. My retirement life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 214. A few days passed, because today is Saturday, so Lin Zion had already supervised Sakai Otoha to complete today's training, and even helped her train for 2 hours. When Lin Zion left, Sakai Otoha came to see him off crying, and I think she was also very moved. It's rare to be able to come back and have dinner with Oda's mother and daughter. After finishing, Lin Zion sat on the sofa and played with his mobile phone. He still had to pay attention to some international current affairs. Oni-chan Ziome will be here tomorrow. Odarina sat next to Lin Zion and climbed on his arm. What do you want to do again? Lin Zion looked at Rina and smiled. She must have something to ask him when she said that. Can Oni-chan cook tomorrow? I want to eat. What? Do you think your mother's cooking is not delicious? Lin Zion said in front of Oda Michiko, and he didn't forget to look at Michiko after he finished speaking. Of course not, Oda Reina shrank her head. It's just that I told Ziome that Oni-chan's cooking is delicious, and she said she wanted to try it. After Reina finished speaking, she secretly looked at Oda Michiko, only to see Oda Michiko looking at her with a smile. Then she became angry and pulled Lin Zion's clothes, as if she would not let go unless he agreed. Lin Zion just teased her, smiled at her angry look, and said, "Okay, then what does Reina want to eat?" "I want to eat the sour and sweet dish that Oni-chan made for the first time," Reina said excitedly when she heard Lin Zion agreed, as if she was afraid that it would be gone if she said it too late. When Lin Zion heard that she was going to go, he was stunned. He had cooked many dishes, and there were no less than 10 sweet and sour dishes. How could he know what she was talking about? The first time? Lin Zion noticed Reina's words. If he remembered correctly, the only sweet and sour dish for the first meal of the two of them was the sweet and sour spare ribs. Lin Zion described it to Lingne, and finally found out that it was indeed that dish. Since you want to eat sweet and sour spare ribs, let's make pineapple sweet and sour pork, Lin Zion decided on the first dish. No, Lingne refused to do it. This was different from what was agreed. She quickly got into Lin Zion's arms and turned over. "Hey! What are you doing? It's a foul." Oda Michiko looked at the two people making trouble on the side, just smiled and let them play. Yukino Giame opened the file bag in her hand, which contained various information about Lin Zion's daily travel, as well as records of his travel and use of transportation, and even the account information of Shigeki Aoda in several banks in Japan. "This liar," Yukino Giame murmured. She saw a large amount of transaction amounts appearing in Lin Zion's bank account at several points in time, and the source of this money was difficult to explain clearly. Why could an international student make so much money in such a short time? And the house he lived in was a famous haunted house nearby. Yukino Kame thought of the rumors about Lin Zion in school. He had an affair with at least 2 women, and one of them looked like a woman. He was a loner, had a bad relationship with everyone in the class, never listened to the class, and didn't participate in group activities. He was lazy. He had average grades, no special skills, and got into Aoyama Academy through the back door. He was such a man with many shortcomings. Yukino Kame felt uncomfortable when she thought that Odarina was still living in his house. Throwing away the information about Lin Zion, Yukino Kame picked up another one. The other one was about Odarina, mainly about her previous school, because Rina became an autistic child and didn't even go out, so there was a gap in the information. There was also Oda Michiko's work and some expenses. This information even included Rina's answer sheet for the entrance examination to Aoyama Academy. Yukino Kame had read this information more than once, but every time she saw Rina's experience in school, she felt uncomfortable. With her experience, she never thought there would be such a person. She just wanted to get to Reina as soon as possible. Bang bang bang. Reina Oden knocked on Lin Zion's door early in the morning. "Oni-chan. Why don't you get up?" Lin Zion wailed, and the door was opened soon after. "I don't have to go to class today, can't I sleep a little longer?" "Not today, what if Ziome comes and sees Oni-chan still asleep?" She will think Oni-chan is lazy. Reina Oda pulled Lin Xian's hand and tried to drag him out of the room. Really? Got it. Lin Xian put his hand on Reina's head and rubbed it twice. Your friend is here to see you. Why is it like he's here to see me? Oni-chan, what are you doing? You messed up my hair. Reina Oda pushed Lin Xian's hand away and hugged her head. This is just a little punishment. Then, am I good looking today? Reina Oda said as she turned around. In the past, she never came to call me on Sundays. She always came to school, so she wore the school uniform. After seeing it for a long time, it was just like that. But she was obviously prepared today. She wore the little skirt that Lin Xian bought for her before. It was white with pink lace. The skirt was not the kind of bloated and gorgeous, but simple style, but it could better highlight Reina's liveliness and cuteness. It looks good, it looks good. Lin Xian smiled and nodded. Huh. Oni-chan is always like this. Seeing his perfunctory attitude, Oda Reina turned and walked away. Lin Xian didn't care. He smiled and went to wash up. He still had to go buy groceries. It was really troublesome. To be honest, before Yukino Giame sent Reina home for the first time, she already knew where she lived. A black car stopped at the door of Lin Xian's house. Then a man in a suit came down and came to the side to open the door. Miss, please get out of the car. We're here. Well, Xiao-chun, drive the car away in a while, don't park it here. Yukino Giame took a look outside before slowly getting down. Yes, Miss Xiao-chun nodded in response, and drove away after watching Yukino Giame walk in. As a bodyguard arranged by Yukino Wilhei to be with his daughter, Xiao-chun still knew a little about Lin Xian. When Yukino Giame told her to get Lin Xian's information, it was Yukino Wilhei who gave her the information and warned her not to mess around. As soon as Yukino Giame rang the doorbell, she heard Reina's voice and couldn't help but smile. You're here, is it Xiaomei? Reina opened the door and dragged her in when she saw Yukino Giame. The sound of the door opening startled Michiko, who was making breakfast in the kitchen. When she came out, she saw Reina with a little girl and asked quickly, I am Michiko Oda. Are you Reina's friend at school? Hello, auntie. I am Yukino Kame. She was always generous in front of people she liked. Thank you for taking care of Reina at school. Michiko also thought this little girl was pretty good. At this time, Lin Xian was walking downstairs. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 215. Oh, Reina's friend is here. Lin Xian came down the stairs. When he saw Yukino Giame, he was still confused for a moment, but he didn't show it and walked over steadily. He found that Yukino Giame didn't have any strange reaction when she looked at him, which means that there was no loophole in the manipulation of her memory. But why can Reina play with her? I just didn't pay attention to Reina for a few days and she became like this. Lin Xian's first reaction was that Yukino Wilhei calculated him. He didn't believe that Yukino Wilhei didn't know about this, but didn't inform him. Lin Xian walked up to them without changing his face and said, Hello, I'm Kong Mu Ching Tian. When Yukino Giame saw Lin Xian coming, she found that she didn't know why she was nervous, and when he spoke, she felt a little uncomfortable, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. But what made Yukino Giame even more uncomfortable was that when Lin Xian approached her, she smelled a very strong smell, causing her to subconsciously cover her nose with her hand. Lin Xian couldn't help but frown when he saw Yukino Giame like this. Although he was lazy, he still loved cleanliness and even had a little cleanliness obsession. But, what do you mean? The two were silent for a while. Oni-chan, she is my friend at school. Seeing something was wrong, Oda Reina immediately came over and took Lin Xian's hand, introducing, Xiaomei treated me very well at school. Yeah, Lin Xian nodded silently. It didn't matter if Yukino Giame ignored him, because the two were strangers now, and such a reaction was better for Lin Xian. Hello. Yukino Giame looked at Reina's pleading eyes and had to answer very perfunctorily. Then I'll go buy vegetables first. Reina, you guys play. Linzian needed to get away from here, he wanted to find Yukino Takemi to ask clearly. Hey! Kingtian-kun hasn't had breakfast yet, Oda Michiko shouted when she saw Linzian go out directly. Wait until I come back to eat, if you go too late, the food will be gone. Linzian found an excuse and hurried out. Linzian, who had just left the house, wanted to call Shuya Wuhai directly, but he saw Xiao Chun standing guard outside the door. Xiao Chun, Linzian called her, why don't you go in and sit down? Why are you standing here? Sir Song Xiakun bowed to Linzian and smiled bitterly, I won't disturb the lady's interest. Didn't you get fired? Linzian glanced at the room and asked, and what's going on? This. Song Xiakun was about to say something when Michiko came out. Qingtianjun. This is. Michiko originally just wanted to come out to ask Linzian, but she came out and found him talking to someone at the gate of the courtyard. Hello, madam, I am Song Xiakun, the driver of Miss Shuya Jiame. What madam? Oda Michiko was speechless, trying to explain something. Michiko, take her in. Why are you standing here? My house doesn't need a door. God Linzian knew that if Oda Michiko came out, he and Matsushita Haru would have no chance to talk, so he simply let them all go in and went directly to find Yukino Takemi. Yes, Oda Michiko didn't know why Linzian suddenly said this, but she still nodded and said to Matsushita Haru, Miss Matsushita, please follow me. This. Matsushita Haru was in a difficult situation. If he went in, he was afraid that Yukino Jiame would be unhappy. If he didn't go in, he was afraid that Linzian would be unhappy. He couldn't offend both sides. Whatever, I'll leave first. Linzian didn't care about her much. He was going to find Yukino Takemi to ask for an explanation. Not long after walking out, Linzian called Yukino Takemi. It sounded like he had just woken up. Now Linzian was unhappy. Your daughter has come to my house to make trouble, and you are like this? Zion, is there something you need to call me so early? Your daughter is at my house now. Don't tell me you don't know about this. Linzian's tone was a bit aggressive, which made Shuya Wuhai take it seriously. I know, what's wrong with Jiame? You know, then why didn't you tell me? Didn't I tell you to try not to let her get in touch with me? Do you take my words as nonsense? Zion, calm down first, I always thought you knew. And I remember you said it would be a while, now it's been almost 2 months, it should be fine. Shuya Wuhai was also stunned for a moment, he didn't expect Linzian to not know about this, he thought Linzian didn't look for him and acquiesced to this. I have a lot of time to take care of these every day. I have nothing to do. And of course the longer the isolation, the better, do you want her to remember those things? Linzian was speechless, who would care about these things if they had nothing to do, and he used a laissez-faire approach to Ling Nai, as long as Ling Nai was not too outrageous, he would not care. There are many ways to deal with memory, the simplest of which is to delete a memory directly, but that will damage the brain and even the soul. If Shuya Jiame was an insignificant person, it would be fine, but she was not, so Linzian used another method at the time, using some meaningless memory fragments to cover up those memories that needed to be processed. Whenever Shuya Jiame thought of those things, she would be guided to other places, thus avoiding the above-mentioned harm, but the disadvantage is that it takes time to solidify, the longer the better. After a year she completely forgot about Linzian. Also, did you arrange for Yukino Kame to meet Oda Reina? Linzian said this for a reason. He remembered that Reina said that the two of them entered school on the same day. With his understanding of Yukino Takemi, he would definitely pave the way for Yukino Kame. He must know the people in the class very well, so there are so many coincidences. There is no such thing as coincidence in front of rich people. Linzian is sure that he must have helped Yukino Kame to meet Oda Reina. Speaking of Yukino Takemi, there is nothing to say. He did intend to let Yukino Kame meet Oda Reina, just to indirectly get in touch with Lin Zion, but now it seems that his behavior makes Lin Zion very unhappy. Lin Zion confirmed Shui Wuhai's answer without saying anything. Thinking of his purpose, Lin Zion smiled and said, "It is understandable that you do this for your daughter. I understand that you love your daughter, but have you ever been considerate of me? Do you know how much effort I spent to deal with the aftermath? If you do this, it is very likely that I will fail. Fortunately, she doesn't seem to know me now, otherwise you can't expect me to help you a second time. I was not thoughtful about this matter. Please forgive me, Zion. If you have something to do, I will definitely help you complete it. Don't give me that. Don't you know that I just took in a dog? You are not as useful as you think," Lin Zion said sarcastically. Shui Wuhai is unattainable in front of ordinary people, but Lin Zion and he are also people from two different worlds. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 216. Xiaomei, wait for me, Oda Reina said and ran upstairs, leaving Yukino Kame alone in the living room. Yukino Kame looked around the house. The decoration style was simple. There was nothing extra except some necessities. It can be seen that the owner was a lazy person. She walked around the living room and found that everything was cleaned up, but this was all done by Reina's mother. She knew that Reina's mother was deceived by that man to come here. Speaking of Oda Michiko, she also smelled that reassuring smell on Michiko just now, but it was a little lighter than that on Reina. The same smell, they must be mother and daughter, living here should be very comfortable, but there is an extra disgusting existence. She was unhappy when she thought of Lin Zion. The Oda mother and daughter should live with her, not with Lin Zion, this rubbish. Come, Xiaomei, these are the snacks I hid. Oda Reina came out with a bunch of snacks, stuck out her tongue mischievously, and complained, if my mother knew that I hid so many snacks, she would definitely scold me again. Yukino Kami, I had no interest in these snacks. She never liked to eat those things, and the snacks she ate were not at the same level as Reina's, but she was still very happy that Reina could take them out. Miss Matsushita, please come in. Reina had just finished speaking when Michiko brought Matsushita Haru back. She saw a pile of snacks in front of Reina and was about to scold her, but seeing that there were outsiders present, she had to give Reina a look. Why did you come back now? Where are the gifts I brought, Yukino Kami? I asked when she saw Matsushita Haru coming in. Gift? Matsushita Haru just remembered that the gift was still in the car. He was about to say that he would go back to get it, but Michiko on the side said it first. No need for gifts. Miss Yukino's visit to my house is the best gift. Thank you very much for playing with Reina. Matsushita Haru was stunned for a moment and looked at Oda Michiko. Michiko smiled gently and nodded to her. Let's go to the side, don't disturb them. After saying that, Michiko pulled Matsushita Haru to the back. Yukino Kame certainly saw that Matsushita Haru had failed in his duty, but since the host didn't care about her, there was no need to say anything. Oda Reina was unaware of what had just happened, but pulled Yukino Kame to her room. You adults are so annoying. I'll take you to my room. Oda Reina picked up the snacks and went upstairs. Yukino Kame had to follow her. Is this your room? Yukino Kame could feel the narrowness as soon as she entered. Why didn't he let you live in other bigger rooms? As she walked along, Yukino Kame found that there were many empty rooms, all of which were bigger than this one. That person actually let Reina live in such a room. Yukino Kamimai was upset when she thought of this. No, I picked it myself because it's next to Oni-I-chan's room, Oda Reina said with a satisfied smile, and it's much better than before. Yukino Kamimai was a little speechless looking at Oda Reina's look. You just live next door, and you look so happy. Xiaomei, look, this is the panda that Uni-chan bought when she took me to Ueno Zoo last time, and this is. Oda Reina introduced the decorations in the room to Yukino Kamimai one by one. But she didn't seem to have much time to listen to Reina's words. She was now complaining in her heart that Lin Xian only bought these cheap souvenirs. After knowing that Reina's friend was Yukino Kamimai, Lin Xian didn't want to go back so early to avoid embarrassment. As for buying vegetables, there was no need to rush. Even if it was the end of the vegetables, he was capable of making good dishes. So he went to Sakai Otoha's house for a while and went back at dinner time. It was still early, and Lin Xian estimated that Sakai Otoha had not gotten up yet, so he took the key to open the door, and then he saw a fast food box and an empty bottle of Fat House Happy Water on the table. It seems that her living standard is good, Lin Xian smiled and walked upstairs quickly. Get up, Lin Xian shouted in a flat tone, and when he saw no response, he knocked on the door again. If you don't open the door, I will come in. No, 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 I'm changing clothes, Sakai Otoha's panicked voice sounded. These days, she was woken up by Lin Xian every day and went to exercise. She was used to getting up early, and today she just lay in bed and didn't want to get up. But she didn't expect Lin Xian to come, and last night's midnight snack hadn't been cleaned up yet. This is over, didn't you say something was wrong? I'm coming in. Lin Xian didn't listen to Sakai Otoha's nonsense, and pushed the door in directly. When he saw Sakai Otoha curled up in the quilt, he just sat by the bed. Get up, I have something to tell you. What? Sakai Otoha asked, sticking her head out of the quilt. This plan failed. Although I don't want to admit it, after observing you for a while, I know you definitely didn't follow the plan I set. I don't think you can complete this plan, and there's no need for me to waste time with you. Lin Xian got up and walked out of the room, leaving a message at the last moment before closing the door. I've torn the 2 posters below for you. Take care of yourself. Goodbye. Hey. Wait, Sakai Otoha hesitated and rushed out, but she couldn't see Lin Xian anymore. When she rushed downstairs and saw that the posters on the wall were indeed gone, she realized that what he said was true. Are you being disliked again? Sakai Otoha casually fell on the sofa and covered her face with her hands. After Lin Xian left Sakai Otoha's house, he wandered around. Of course, he would not give up Sakai Otoha, but he needed some skills to stimulate Sakai Otoha's enthusiasm. He never allowed mistakes to happen in his work. If Sakai Otoha did not wake up, then don't blame him. He didn't want to. In fact, there are special meat shops for buying vegetables in Neon. They are opened on the street like convenience stores. If you know the owner, you can even ask him to help you get some good things, but the price will definitely be a little higher. You can also ask the owner to keep some internal organs or special parts. When Lin Xian made braised beef, he went to those places to buy beef tendon meat, and the whole piece looked better. And if you go to those places in the evening, the meat will be much cheaper, and there will usually be discounts. However, Lin Xian did not like to go to that place because he found that there was an acquaintance in the store he went to before. Mao Yuxuan Chawai worked there. This caused Lin Xian to have a psychological shadow on those places. He would rather go farther away than go to those places. I was really shocked when I saw her for the first time. She might be the only one in Japan who could make Lin Xian have such a reaction. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 217. Lin Xian wandered around outside for a long time before buying groceries and going home. But when he got home, he found that no one had gone home. Finally, he found Michiko Oda and Haru Matsushita in the backyard. Why are you here? Where are Rina and the others? Aren't they in the living room? Michiko Oda got up and walked back. When she saw that the pile of snacks was gone, she said very confidently, Rina must have gone back to her room. Then let them play by themselves. Seeing that it was getting late, Lin Ziyan walked into the kitchen. I'll help, Michiko volunteered. You should go and chat with the guests. Lin Ziyan rejected her suggestion. In the past, she would come to help every time Lin Ziyan cooked. In fact, she just wanted to learn from him. He didn't care and taught her intentionally or unintentionally, but she had too many questions, and he didn't like to disturb her when he was doing things. The funniest time was when Lin Ziyan used different oils when cooking different dishes, such as vegetable oil, lard, and chicken oil. Then she asked Lin Ziyan why he didn't use the same oil. Wouldn't it be simpler that way? From then on, Lin Ziyan knew that Oda Michiko's pursuit of food was very different from his own, so he stopped teaching her. It was up to her to decide how much she could learn. Yes, Oda Michiko nodded in agreement. She knew that leaving the guests alone was not a good idea, but she had few opportunities to see Lin Ziyan take action, and he wanted to make the dish that Reina liked the most. But since Lin Ziyan had spoken, she had no choice but to go back and continue chatting with Matsushita Haru. Back in the familiar kitchen, there was no need to think about other things, just do your best. Take out all the ingredients you just bought, clean them one by one, and then prepare them. He was going to make 4 dishes and 1 soup today, using all the most common ingredients and the most common home-cooked dishes. I don't know if Yukino Giame will eat these. It would be best if she doesn't like them. Lin Ziyan really didn't want to provoke Yukino Giame. Her identity was too sensitive, and there was an old fox behind her. It would be better to finish the meal quickly and send the great god away. He guessed that Yukino Giame could not stay in such a place for a long time, at most half a day. Because Lin Ziyan had been to her house, let alone this casual doghouse in his own house, no matter how well it was cleaned, it would not be in her eyes. She probably won't come in the future. While Lin Ziyan was full of hope, Odarina and Yukino Giame talked about their own things in the room. Ziome, I have something to tell you. Odarina sat on the bed, looked up at Yukino Giame who was sitting opposite her, hesitant, and twisted her hands into a ball. What's the matter? Yukino Giame was stunned for a moment before she reacted. She was annoyed by Rina's long said Oni-chan. What did she suddenly want to do now? I didn't mean to lie to you, but... Odarina's face was tangled, and she looked like she wanted to say something but stopped. What's the matter? Yukino Giame looked at Odarina nervously. She didn't know what Rina was talking about. Actually, I come from a single-parent family. I don't have a father. When Odarina said this, she seemed to shrink back and didn't even dare to look at Yukino Giame. It's okay. Yukino Giame reached out and grabbed Reina's hand. I also come from a single-parent family. Yukino Giame didn't expect that Odarina would say this. She had long known from Reina's information that she came from a single-parent family, and that this was the reason why she suffered school violence and finally hid at home. So she, who also hid at home from society because of her mother's death, could empathize with Reina and was particularly caring for her. Of course, if she hadn't smelled that smell that day, she wouldn't have talked to her or paid attention to her. The acquaintance of the two people was really wonderful, as if it was moved by a big hand, and it seemed as if the acquaintance of the two people was destined by God. Otherwise, it would be impossible for others to let her sit here and listen to nonsense for so long, not even her father. Ziome is also a single-parent family. Odarina covered her mouth with her hand, looking very surprised, and then reacted. I quickly said, Ziome, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up, it's just. It's okay, I know, but it's been so long, I've let it go. Yukino Giame said to Reina in a very calm tone, but the sadness on her face could not be concealed. I wish Ziome could meet someone like Oni-chan, so that Ziome would be happier. Odarina held Yukino Giame's hands with both hands, smiling and blessing. It was at this moment that Yukino Giame realized that Lin Ziyan had become a godlike existence in Odarina's heart. Is that man really that good? No, I must make Reina give up this idea, I want to expose his true face. As the two chatted, someone knocked on the door and said, Reina, bring your friends out for dinner. Qingtian has prepared your favorite dishes. Mom, Reina immediately got up from the bed and opened the door, then went back to pull Yukino Jiamei downstairs. Let's go, Xiaomei, you will definitely like the dishes made by Uni I-chan. Yukino Jiamei was dragged down by Reina with a helpless look on her face. Who is she? What famous dishes in the world have she not eaten? Would she care about these? Oda Michiko couldn't help but smile at Reina's lively look from behind. When she went downstairs, Reina let go of Yukino Jiamei and ran towards Lin Xian as soon as she saw Lin Xian. Thank you for your hard work, Uni I-chan, Reina skillfully helped Lin Xian take off her apron. I'm not going to lose weight today. Eat more later. Lin Xian smiled and touched her head. Okay, Reina gently rubbed Lin Xian's hand, showing a happy expression. It was obviously a happy scene, but Yukino Jiamei's face looked very ugly when she saw this. Yukino Jiamei only felt a nameless anger rushing to her heart, and she couldn't even tell whether she was jealous or something else. Okay, everyone sit down and eat. Lin Xian gently patted Reina's head, then turned back to the kitchen. Only then did Reina come over and pull Yukino Jiamei into the dining room. And Matsushita Haru was already ready in the dining room. When he saw Yukino Jiamei coming in, he pulled the chair away and said, Miss, please take a seat. I have disinfected the tableware. Yukino Jiamei looked at the dishes in front of her and found that they were actually put together. Does that mean she will eat with them? She didn't care about what Oda and her daughter said, but she felt sick when Lin Xian said that. The food is a little simple, don't look disgusted. Lin Xian, who came out of the kitchen, knew what she meant when he saw her expression, and there are serving chopsticks, so you won't be wronged, young lady. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 218. If he were alone, he would definitely not indulge Yukino Jiamei's bad habits, but today he is not the protagonist, he is just a chef today, there is no need to do something extraordinary to make her remember him. Humph, Yukino Jiamei did not want to act too much in front of Reina, just glanced at Lin Xian with disdain. Then he sat down. If he had not promised Reina, Lin Xian would have slipped away long ago. It is indeed great to have money, but it is okay for him Lin Xian not to serve. It is really uncomfortable to have an outsider. Originally, Lin Xian and the other three did not use public chopsticks at all, but now it is much more troublesome. If Lin Xian had known earlier, he would have given Yukino Jiamei a separate portion, and then they would eat slowly. Miss Matsushita, don't you want to sit down? Michiko saw that everyone else had sat down, and Matsushita Haru was still standing behind Yukino Jiamei. No, thank you. Matsushita Haru nodded slightly to Michiko. But Michiko was about to say something when she was interrupted by Lin Xian. This is her job requirement, no need to say it. Although Lin Xian knew that this was one of the necessary professional habits for a close bodyguard, he was still a little unhappy. Do you think my home will be in danger? Go ask Shueye Wuhai, this may be the safest place in all of Neon. Lin Xian's attitude towards this is understandable, but unacceptable. Xiaomei, try this, this is my favorite. Reina picked up a piece of ribs and stuffed it into Shueye Jiamei's bowl. Shueye Jiamei smiled reluctantly. Since she sat down just now, she only drank a bowl of soup and didn't touch these dishes. One is because her stomach is not good, and the other is that she has no appetite looking at these dishes. If Lin Xian knew, he would definitely complain, you still put the dishes on the plate when you eat at home? It's so noble. Picked up the ribs in the bowl, hesitated for a while, and then took a small bite. The perfect sour and sweet taste blends in the taste buds and bursts out new power. In addition to the sauce outside, there is also the rib's own gravy. The rich feeling in it occupies the peak of taste again after the sour and sweet taste fades. Lin Ziyan carefully looked at Shui Yejiamei. Although he didn't want to cook this meal, he still went all out. After all, the signboard can't fall on his hands. And in order to avoid her remembering him, Lin Ziyan deliberately made dishes with a stronger taste. This should be okay for her, right? Even Shui Yejiamei had to admit that Lin Ziyan was really good at cooking. No wonder Ling Na said that his cooking was delicious. But this can't be a reason for him to stay here. After dinner, everyone gathered in the living room. Lin Ziyan originally felt that the situation was very embarrassing. When Shui Yejiamei stood up, he almost laughed out loud. This great god is finally leaving. But he never expected that Shui Yejiamei would say to him when she stood up, "You are not worthy of being Ling Na's brother." Lin Ziyan was stunned on the spot. What is going on? Not only Lin Ziyan, but the others also had a puzzled look on their faces. Miss, I don't seem to have offended you, right?" Lin Ziyan didn't know if she remembered something or for other reasons, so he could only test her. "Don't be so hypocritical here. Do you know how much Irena suffered in school?" As soon as she said this, Lin Ziyan knew that she definitely didn't remember those memories, but why did she say that? Lin Ziyan looked at Oda Reina. When Oda Reina heard Yukino Jiamei say this, she was also confused, her mind was blank. When did she suffer? Why didn't I know it myself? It was not until she saw Lin Ziyan and Oda Michiko looking at her that she reacted and quickly explained, "No, no one bullied me." When Yukino Jiamei heard what Reina said, she walked to Reina and said, "Don't be afraid of this man, I'm here." Hearing Yukino Jiamei say this, Lin Ziyan laughed on the spot and no longer concealed it. He said directly, "Please explain it to the lady." Lin Ziyan was a little interested in her now, looking at her like a fun toy. "Do you know how bad your reputation is in school? You are not Rena's brother, but you force her to recognize you as her brother. You know that everyone in the class says that she is the bad sister. Do you know how much damage this has done to Rena's reputation?" "Oh, you are talking about this," Lin Ziyan replied calmly. "I do have a bad reputation in school, I admit this, but I don't agree with the influence you mentioned. If a person can be influenced by rumors and refuse to contact Rena or even drag others to alienate Rena together, it is a good thing in my opinion. People who make subjective assumptions without knowing the facts are not worthy of being Rena's friends. I feel more at ease when those people stay away from Rena." "Wrong logic," Yukino Jiamei pointed at Lin Ziyan's nose and shouted. Lin Ziyan found her reaction ridiculous and asked, "Will you alienate Rena because of the rumors about me?" "Of course not, the relationship between Rena and me is not something that people like you can influence," Yukino Jiamei answered subconsciously. "So this is why you can enter this door today," Lin Ziyan smiled and said. It was then that Yukino Jiamei realized that she had implicitly agreed with his point of view and had fallen into his trap. But she obviously couldn't just give up like that. "Even if what you say makes sense, it won't change your impression. You labeled her a trash student's sister. Whenever others talk about Reina, they will mention you." "I have already thought of this," Lin Ziyan still said calmly and slowly. "Label is easy to put on and easy to tear off. I have already asked Reina to prepare for this month's monthly exam. When those people talk about her, they will have the concept of, I didn't expect that her brother is rubbish but she is a top student." Lin Ziyan had indeed predicted before that his temper would definitely affect Lene from the same school, so he had already planned this monthly exam. Reina's scores in the entrance examination were all marginal. "Why are you so sure that Reina can get good results in the monthly exam? Ask Reina yourself about this." Lin Ziyan gestured towards Oda Reina towards her. Only then did Yukino Yoshimi realize that he had stepped on a thunderbolt again. What had he just said? "Do you want to ask yourself, can you do well in the exam?" Fortunately, Reina didn't embarrass her for too long. She quickly reacted and said, "I have been prepared for a long time." I will definitely not let Oni-chan down. Look, Lin Zion smiled at Swayami, you don't have to worry about this. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 219. Labels are actually a joke, just like the persona of a celebrity. When passers-by hear you for the first time, they will be affected by your label, but this influence cannot last long. When passers-by really come into contact with you, afterwards, you can naturally tell the authenticity of the label. That's why Lin Zion K is not very worried about this. In fact, compared to labels such as student, more intuitive labels such as handsome, beautiful, and rich can impress others more directly. In fact, Lingnei is no worse than those people when she dresses up, and is even better than them. With Lin Zion's financial resources, it is even easier to flatter Lingnei. But Lin Zion doesn't want Lingnei to touch these, because these are consumables and will not be beneficial to Lingnei's growth. Instead, they may teach her bad things. There is one more question. Yukino Yoshimi found that Lin Zion was extremely difficult to deal with. Unfortunately, she did not just come here, but had a lot of preparations. You tricked Reina and her daughter into coming here. Oh, Lin Zion still looked very leisurely. How do you say this? Humph. I have complete evidence to prove that you are a murderer. Yukino Yami saw that Lin Zion was still like that, looking unconcerned. Yukino Yoshimi chuckled and thought, I hope he can still look like this when he says it. Lin Zion was a little curious when he heard what she said. He didn't seem to have killed many people in Neon. Which one was she talking about? They themselves didn't think anything was wrong with the conversation between the two, but Oda and her daughter were very panicked when they heard it. Why is this rhythm so similar to the time Ryo Hosokawa committed suicide? Stop talking, Oni-chan wouldn't do that kind of thing. Odarina felt that she had to stop Yukino Yami. She didn't want her friend to die just as soon as she became warm. Hey. Don't be impatient yet, I want to hear what this young lady has to say. Lin Zion was really curious about what information Tekkai Yukino gave her to make her say such things. Oni-chan. Odarina was about to walk towards Lin Zion, but her mother caught her and pulled her to her side. Oda Michiko looked at Yukino Yoshimi and Matsushita Haru carefully. She knew that the two people came with bad intentions, especially Rina's friend. Michiko Oda didn't know why Yukino Yami was hostile to Lin Zion, but she knew it was better not to talk nonsense at this time. Especially after Hosokawa Ryo made trouble last time. Michiko pressed Reina to her side and thought silently in her heart, let Aota-kun handle all this. No matter how dull Odarina was, she could still feel the change in Michiko, so she could only sit aside and focus on Lin Zion for help. The sudden change in the scene made Yukino Yoshimi feel something was wrong. Shouldn't you be surprised to hear that he is a murderer? Why are both of them so calm? And Reina's mother's reaction was even more outrageous. The way she looked at her, she thought she was the villain. Obviously I'm here to expose this person's hypocritical mask and save you from the fire and water. Come on, I have something else to do. Lin Zion yawned. He wanted to go to bed now. Don't regret it. Yukino Yoshimi felt unhappy when she saw Lin Zion's sloppy look. He was lazy and didn't look like an elder brother at all. Do you want to tell me? If you don't tell me, I'm leaving. Lin Zion felt that he needed a peaceful nap to comfort his young mind. You bought the place where Reina used to live, then kicked them out, and then pretended to be kind and took them over. In fact, you directed and acted all of this yourself, and you also killed the landlord for this. Yukino Yoshimi. He looked at Lin Zion with a proud look on his face and almost said, come and praise me, am I right or not? Where's the evidence? Lin Zion remained calm and unfazed by her words. He died less than 3 days after you bought the house next door. I checked his account and there was no money coming in or out at all, and he didn't have any relatives. What did you use to buy it? It was obviously you who killed someone and silenced him. I just don't want to give money. Really? Lin Zion ignored Yukino Yami, but looked at Oda and his daughter with interest. The expressions of mother and daughter were different. Oda Rina's was panic, while Oda Michiko's was surprised. This is just your imagination and cannot be used as evidence, and Lin Zion turned his attention back to Yukino Yoshimi and asked, what was the cause of that person's death? The drunken man slipped and fell into the river and drowned. He died around 8-9 o'clock. Yukino Yoshimi didn't understand why Lin Zion asked this, but she still answered. What about the time and place? Where is the camera at the place where the incident occurred? Can it prove that I have been to that place? Can it be proved that I pushed him down or what? Yukino Yami did not answer because she had seen the video and it was indeed the man who fell by himself, so she wanted to deceive Lin Zion here, but she did not expect that he would not be fooled. Miss, investigating the case is not that simple. You can't solve the case just by relying on your imagination. You must have evidence, otherwise anyone can become a police officer. Lin Zion's tone of voice was very calm, but when Yukino Yami heard it, there was always a sense of ridicule. You. Also, during the time period you mentioned, I was staying with Reina and the others. If you don't believe me, you can ask them. Lin Zion motioned to Yukino Yami. You don't need to tell me this. Yukino Yoshimi gave him an angry look, and then looked at Oda and his daughter. But before she could say anything else, Oda Michiko replied, Aota-kun was indeed with us that night. Michiko Oda glanced at Lin Zion, the meaning of which was unclear. Yes, Ani-I-chan was helping me with tutoring that day, and I was always with him, and Oda Rina didn't know what she thought of, and suddenly she felt a little irritable. She gritted her teeth and said, that person was originally Lingna. Lin Zion suddenly interrupted her with a low voice, and then waved to her, come here. Oda Rina was stunned for a moment, then ran towards Lin Zion crying, ran into his arms, and sobbed softly. It's okay, I'm here. Lin Zion hugged her and gently stroked Lingna's back. When Yukino Yoshimi saw this, he knew that he was missing some information, and something must have happened during this period that he didn't know about. It is the lack of information that has led to this situation. Okay, if this lady is fine, please come back. Lin Zion was not interested in playing in this situation anymore. That incident was indeed a psychological shadow for Lin. This. Let's go. Oda Reina, who was in Lin Zion's arms, suddenly got angry and yelled at Yukino Yoshimi, you don't know anything at all, you have no right to make irresponsible remarks here. Does anyone think the plot moves too slowly? My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 220. Facing Reina's questioning, Yukino Yami could only give Lin Zion a vicious look before exiting his house with Haru Matsushita. In Lin Zion's opinion, Yukino Yoshimi's warning was too careless. Get outside. Yukino Yoshimi was completely shocked and asked Matsushita Haruna, what is missing from the information you gave me? Why did Reina react like this? This, I'm not very clear about it. Miss Matsushita Haruya was helpless. The information in her hand was all given by Yukino Tekkai. Should he be asked to ask Yukino Tekkai? Although she is now Yukino Yoshimi's personal bodyguard, she knows exactly who is the boss. When she goes back, she has to report to Yukino Tekkai about the embarrassing things that happened today. How to deal with it has nothing to do with her. This is not something she can control. She still has the self-awareness. You go back and check for me right away. Find out the landlord for me. I don't care what means you use. I just want to know the answer before tomorrow. Yukino Yami is now thinking about how to make up for the relationship with Rina. Anyway, he won't have a chance to talk to her until he understands this matter. And the sooner this misunderstanding is explained, the better. If it drags on any longer, it will really break down. In the hall, Oda Michiko sat aside, watching Reina cry on Linzian, and she herself seemed to be thinking about something. Her attention was not on Linzian at all. Seeing Michiko Oda state, Linzian said, "What are you thinking? Didn't I tell you that I bought the next door? Didn't you already read that document?" Being reminded by Linzian like this, Michiko's memory seemed to suddenly flash back to that time. "I went into Mr. Kingtian's room to clean up and saw a document on the bedside. Then I accidentally opened it and found that it was the property certificate for the land next door." Looking at Linzian's name written on the property owner, Oda Michiko was confused at that time. She didn't know how she walked out of the bedroom, but she didn't dare to ask about it. Michiko Oda suddenly panicked. Aoda-kun's reaction was that he knew I had opened the file, but why did something seem wrong? She suddenly remembered what Linzian said, and Michiko finally found the cause of the problem and the strange feeling of dissonance. "That's right. It is impossible for Mr. Qingtian to put a document on the bedside according to his habit, which means that Mr. Qingtian did it on purpose just to let me see it. So why do you want me to see it?" Michiko Oda suddenly remembered what Linzian said that night, "Don't worry, I will take care of it." Is this telling me the processing results? Michiko Oda was stunned for a moment, and suddenly asked nervously, "Ao Tian-kun really didn't kill anyone?" When Reina heard this, she also got up from Linzian, looked back at Michiko, and cursed fiercely, "I'll just kill that kind of trash. Does mom still want to report Oni-chan?" Michiko Oda's eyes suddenly trembled when she looked at Reina. She actually felt fear. Reina would not talk to her like this before. "Okay, how can you talk to your mother like this?" Linzian put his hand on Lene's head and comforted her. "Didn't I just say that I was with you at the time? How could I have the time to do this thing?" But Michiko Oda also felt that it was too coincidental. It wasn't that she thought it would be nice for Linzian to deal with the landlord, but she was worried that Linzian would be implicated if he didn't deal with it properly. She just wanted to do her best to maintain this family. She was ready for this. "You have to believe me. I am a well-known good citizen in my hometown, and I am also a good student in school. So we have to believe the Metropolitan Police Department. This matter has been finalized and has nothing to do with us." Of course Shiu couldn't admit it, and it really wasn't him. He wouldn't take the blame for Kingxuan. After hearing what Linzian said, Reina said quietly, "Killing such a dirty person will only dirty Uni-chan's hands." Linzian laughed on the spot and said, "You stop watching those TV animations. Now you are so average in everything you say." Looking at Linzian's reaction, Oda Michiko could only conclude that this matter had nothing to do with them, and she didn't think she was capable of sharing anything for Linzian. Because in her eyes, Linzian was almost flawless and perfect. Linzian's conversation just now made Michiko feel, she suddenly couldn't express that feeling. Anyway, she was taking it easy. Faced with the aggressiveness of Reina's friends, Kingtian-kun responded calmly. Moreover, he had already thought about what Reina would encounter in school, and even planned the means a month in advance. "And as Reina's mother, I don't know anything, I'm really derelict in my duty. Humph. I really don't need friends or anything like that. All I need is my mother and Oni-chan." Reina hugged Linzian and whispered. Linzian frowned as soon as Lingnei said this. "How can I go and have sex with you pestering me like this every day?" he said quickly. "You can't deny others just because of one or two people. Besides, didn't you say that this little beauty was very good to you at school? And wasn't what she just said just for you? She may be targeting me just because my reputation in school is really bad, so she said I lied to you. You have to be rational about this." Linzian regretted the pretense just now. If he had known that he would have gone back to his room and slept after dinner, nothing would have happened. "But she doesn't like Uni-chan," Reina said tangledly. "I wipe it? Is there anything wrong with your mind?" Linzian was completely shocked. What kind of theory is this? And do you know that she is such a big trouble that I can't even hide from you, yet you still want her to like me? I think you want me to die? Why does she like me? Whether I have money or not, everyone likes me. Lin Zion was really speechless. But just now, Rena said suddenly, very excitedly, she obviously went to collect Uni I-chan's information, and she also looked for some evidence. This. Lin Zion didn't even know how to help Yukino Kami wash her. This was just making things difficult for him. Then let me ask you a question. Lin Zion couldn't let go of Yukino Yoshimi or her friend who could hold Reina back. Did she know about me when you first met? I probably don't know. Lingnae wasn't sure, but the two of them seemed to have never talked about Lin Zion before. Isn't that right? Lin Zion said decisively, this is the friendship between you. It has nothing to do with me. If you don't tell me in the future, won't I be fine? Lin Zion took advantage of Linae's reaction and continued, if she comes over from now on, I will either go out or stay in the room. Can't I just come out?